Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're going to be exploring a fascinating perspective on the Garden of Eden story.
All right.
And we're going to be taking a look at this from the perspective of the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Sounds interesting.
most of us probably grew up, hearing this story as literal history in
Right.
Sunday school or whatever. But the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, they have a completely different take on it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They see it as a powerful metaphor for humanity's spiritual journey.
Interesting.
So get ready to have your assumptions challenged
Yeah.
as we deep dive into this really unique interpretation.
I'm ready.
So the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, they were founded by Grandmaster Waxira.
Okay.
And one of the key things they emphasize is that Eden is not about a physical location.
Right.
It's not like some hidden garden somewhere.
Hmm.
It's about a state of consciousness.
Oh, okay.
They say that Eden is a state of pure unity with the divine,
Yes.
a state where we experience no limitations.
So it's more like an inner state of being.
Exactly. And the really cool thing
Yeah.
is that they suggest this state, this connection to the divine, is something we've never truly lost.
Wow.
We've
Yeah.
just forgotten it.
That's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, and that idea of forgetting
Mhm.
something as profound as unity with the divine,
Right.
that's a really intriguing concept.
It is. Yeah. How do they explain that?
Well, they use the metaphor of Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right. Right.
And they see this as a symbolic representation of becoming trapped in duality,
Hmm.
the separation of everything into opposites,
Okay.
like good and bad, pleasure and pain.
I see life and death. So by getting so caught up in those dualities, I
Right.
lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's like we create this illusion of separateness
Yeah.
by getting stuck in this world of opposites.
Interesting.
And in doing so, we forget that inherent connection to the divine.
It's like putting on blinders almost.
Yeah, and we're only seeing the world through this very limited lens.
And that's what leads to this sense of being separated from our true nature.
Yeah, from that state of wholeness.
Wow.
But now I'm curious,
Yeah.
what about the punishments that are given to Adam and Eve
Right.
after they eat the fruit?
After they eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge.
Yeah. How does the Brotherhood reconcile that with this idea of a loving and benevolent divine source?
That's where it gets really interesting
Yeah.
because instead of viewing those punishments as retribution,
Hmm.
the Brotherhood sees them as essential parts
Okay.
of the journey back to remembering our true selves.
So they're not punishments in the traditional sense.
Not exactly, or
Okay.
more like necessary steps in our spiritual evolution.
For example, a pain in childbirth that Eve experiences.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem like a very positive thing on the surface.
right.
So how does the Brotherhood interpret that?
Well, they see it not as a curse,
Okay.
but as a representation of the challenges and growth that come with expanding our consciousness.
So even those experiences that seem negative or challenging on the surface
Yes.
could actually be opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They're like catalysts for our spiritual development.
And what about Adam's punishment?
Oh, you mean toiling the land?
Yeah.
That's another great example.
So how does that fit into this whole metaphorical interpretation?
Well, they see it as symbolic of the effort
Mhm.
that's required to transcend the illusions of the material world.
So it's not about literally working the fields.
No, not in the literal sense.
Okay.
It's more about the inner work we have to do,
I see.
the dedication,
Uh-huh.
the perseverance that's needed to shed those layers of separation
Okay.
and reconnect with our spiritual essence.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
It's a really fascinating perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It really challenges us to look at this story in a whole new light.
Yeah, it does. And I'm really interested to hear more about how they say we actually find our way back
Right.
to that Edenic state of consciousness.
Yeah, how do we get back to that garden?
Exactly. Because it sounds like it's not about finding a physical location.
No, it's not.
It's about something much deeper.
Much deeper in inner transformation.
Right. So how do we start that journey?
Well, that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our depth dive.
Sounds good. I'm ready to keep going.
Me too. This is really fascinating stuff.
Okay, so stay tuned, everyone.
We'll be right back.
Okay, so we've seen how the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, they interpret that traditional story of Adam and Eve as this metaphor for humanity's spiritual journey.
Yeah, really powerful metaphor.
But how do we actually find our way back
Yeah.
to that Edenic state of consciousness?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, because it sounds like it's not as simple as buying a plane ticket
No,
and, heading off to some exotic location.
definitely not a physical journey.
So where do we even begin?
Well, the Brotherhood suggests it starts with questioning. Questioning our perceptions, our beliefs, all those ingrained dualities we've been talking about.
So instead of just accepting those categories of good and bad, right and wrong as these absolute truths,
Right.
we need to take a closer look.
Yeah, we need to examine them
Hmm.
and really recognize that these labels,
Okay.
they're often constructs of our minds.
So they're not necessarily reflecting some ultimate truth.
Not necessarily, no, they're shaped by our experiences,
Okay.
our cultural conditioning, all sorts of things.
So instead of getting caught up in those judgments,
Right.
we need to look beyond the surface.
Exactly. They urge us to go beyond the limitations
Huh.
of our senses and our rational minds.
Mm.
It's about tapping into a deeper knowing,
Okay.
an intuitive understanding that lies beyond that realm of the mind.
This all sounds incredibly challenging.
It can be.
I mean, we spent our whole lives
Right.
learning to categorize and judge the world.
Yeah, it's ingrained in us.
So how do we unlearn all of that?
It takes effort and dedication, for sure.
Yeah.
But the Brotherhood believes that everyone has the potential to do it.
Okay, so what are some practical steps we can take?
Well, one thing they emphasize is cultivating
Right.
a mindful awareness of our thoughts and reactions
Mhm.
without judgment.
Okay.
It's about observing those dualities without getting swept away by them.
So it's a process of self-discovery,
Yes.
of becoming more conscious of how our minds work
Absolutely.
and how we perceive the world.
You've got it.
But it's not just about introspection, right?
Right.
The Brotherhood also talks about expressing our divine nature in the world.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just understand these concepts intellectually.
Oh, okay.
The real transformation happens when we start to embody these principles in our daily lives.
So how do we bridge that gap?
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, how do we bring those Edenic qualities into our everyday experiences?
Well, they emphasize the importance of aligning our actions with our highest values.
So making choices that reflect our inherent goodness.
Exactly, our compassion, our connection to the divine.
That makes sense. But it still seems like a daunting task.
I understand.
How do we even know what those highest values are?
It's an ongoing process, and it
Okay.
starts with self-awareness.
So the more we understand ourselves,
Right.
the more clearly we can see what truly matters to us.
And as we deepen that connection with ourselves,
Okay.
we naturally become more sensitive to the needs of others and the world around us.
So it's about cultivating that inner awareness
Yeah,
and letting it guide our actions in the world.
precisely. And they suggest that as we do this, we begin to experience a sense of wholeness and interconnectedness
Okay.
that reflects that Edenic state of consciousness.
Now that brings us to another point that the Brotherhood emphasizes,
Yeah.
and that is the connection between our individual journeys and the collective good.
That's a really important point.
Yeah, they seem to believe that reclaiming our own divine nature has implications for the entire world.
It's not just about individual enlightenment.
Right.
They envision a world where everyone recognizes their inherent divinity and lives in harmony with each other and the planet.
Okay.
They see our individual journeys as interconnected,
Hmm.
each playing a role in the larger tapestry of human evolution.
That's a beautiful vision.
It is.
But how do we get from where we are now
Right.
to that utopian ideal?
Well, the Brotherhood believes it starts with each individual
Okay.
taking responsibility for their own spiritual awakening.
So as more and more people reconnect with their true nature,
Right.
that shift in consciousness will ripple outwards,
Exactly.
creating positive change on a global scale.
It's like a chain reaction of enlightenment.
Yeah, starting with each individual spark.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix the world.
No.
It's about each of us stepping into our own power and
Exactly.
becoming agents of positive change.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of their message. It's empowering.
It is.
It's about taking ownership of our own spiritual growth.
Yeah, and contributing to something much bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we've talked a lot about the metaphorical meaning of the Garden of Eden story.
Right.
The inner work required to reconnect with our divine nature.
Yeah.
And the impact that individual transformation can have on the world.
Right.
But there's one more aspect of the Brotherhood's teachings
Okay.
that I'm curious about, and that is their emphasis on the qualities of children.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating, isn't
They
it?
point to children
Right.
as embodying a natural connection
Right.
to that Edenic state of consciousness.
They see in children those qualities of purity, wonder, and trust
Huh.
that we often lose touch with as we grow older.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
That sense of wonder and awe that children have.
It's like they see the world with fresh eyes, full of possibility and magic.
Exactly. And the Brotherhood suggests that by reconnecting with those childlike qualities within ourselves,
Right.
we can begin to rediscover that sense of magic and wonder in our own lives.
It's about approaching life with a sense of openness,
Okay?
curiosity, a willingness to see the beauty in everything.
And that reminds me of something the Brotherhood said
Okay.
about the symbolic meaning of Adam and Eve's nakedness.
Right.
They see it not as a source of shame,
Uh-huh.
but as a representation of that childlike innocence and purity
Right.
that we often lose as we become adults.
It's a beautiful insight.
It is.
It's about reclaiming that sense of unself-conscious joy and freedom that
Yeah.
children naturally embody.
It's not about literally becoming children again,
No.
but about rediscovering those qualities within ourselves.
Exactly. It's about remembering that sense of wonder,
Okay.
that capacity for joy, that inherent goodness that we all possess.
This is incredibly inspiring.
It is a powerful message.
It feels like the Brotherhood is offering us a roadmap back to that Edenic state, a way to reconnect with our true nature and create a more harmonious world.
They're reminding us that the paradise we seek is not some distant place,
Right.
but a state of being that we can access right here, right now, within ourselves.
This has been an incredibly illuminating conversation.
It has.
We've explored the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood's unique perspective on the Garden of Eden,
Right.
their insights into the nature of the divine and the steps we can take to reclaim our spiritual inheritance.
And we've seen how this journey of self-discovery has profound implications.
Yeah.
Not only for our individual lives, but for the future of humanity as a whole.
But before we wrap things up, I'm curious to hear more about the practical steps.
Yeah.
The Brotherhood suggests for cultivating that inner Eden. They mention things like spending time in nature and practicing meditation.
Yes. Those are essential practices.
Can you tell us more about how those practices help us on this journey?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to.
So you mentioned the Brotherhood's emphasis on connecting with nature.
Yeah.
And that seems like a natural fit,
It does.
given that the Garden of Eden itself is often depicted as this lush and vibrant paradise.
Absolutely. They see nature as this direct reflection of the divine, a tangible reminder of the interconnectedness of all things.
So it's about more than just going for a hike
Right.
or admiring a pretty sunset.
It's about really feeling that connection to
Right.
something larger than ourselves.
It's something that transcends our individual worries and concerns.
Exactly. They suggest that by simply being present in nature,
Mm,
observing the cycles of growth and decay,
yeah.
the interconnectedness of all living things, we can start to shift our perspective
Okay.
and reconnect with that sense of belonging to something much greater.
So it's like nature offers us a direct experience
Yeah.
of that Edenic state of unity that
Yeah.
we're trying to cultivate within ourselves.
Exactly. And they also encourage practices like meditation and mindfulness
Right?
to help us quiet the mind and create space for that deeper knowing to emerge.
It's like hitting the pause button
Yeah.
on all the mental chatter
All that noise.
and allowing ourselves to just be present in the moment
Yes,
without judgment or analysis.
exactly. And in that stillness,
Mm,
we can start to connect with the truth of who we are.
those divine beings beneath all the layers of conditioning.
Yes. We can access that innate wisdom and guidance that resides within each of us.
So it's not just about connecting with nature externally,
Right.
but also about cultivating that inner landscape,
Yeah.
that sense of peace and stillness within ourselves.
You got it. And they suggest that as we embrace this new perspective, our actions naturally begin to align with our true nature.
So we start to live with more compassion, kindness, and integrity.
Exactly. It's not just about feeling good on the inside. It's
Yeah.
about letting that inner light shine through in everything we do.
Contributing to a more loving and harmonious world. So it's about embodying those Edenic qualities of unity, compassion, and love in our everyday lives.
Precisely. And they believe that as more and more of us make that shift,
Yeah.
that collective energy will create a ripple effect, transforming not just our individual lives, but the world as a whole.
That's a powerful message of hope.
It is.
It suggests that a better world is possible.
A world where we all recognize our interconnectedness
Yeah.
and live in harmony with each other and the planet.
And it's a message that resonates
Yeah,
with the teachings of many spiritual traditions throughout
absolutely.
history.
The idea that we are all connected,
Yeah.
that we are all part of something larger than ourselves.
Mm.
It's a universal truth that transcends cultural and religious boundaries.
This has been a truly transformative deep dive.
It has been.
We've explored the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood's unique perspective on the Garden of Eden
Their insights into the nature of the divine.
and the steps we can take to reclaim our spiritual inheritance.
It's been a really enriching exploration.
It has. And for our listeners who are intrigued by the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood's teachings and want to learn more,
Right.
where can they go to find out more about this organization and their work?
Well, the Brotherhood has a vibrant online presence.
Okay.
Their Facebook page is a great place to start.
Okay, and how would people find that?
You can find it by searching for Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood.
Awesome. We'll be sure to include that link in the show notes.
Wonderful. And as you delve deeper into their teachings,
Yeah.
I encourage you to approach them with an open mind and a curious heart.
This has been a truly inspiring conversation.
It has.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. What small steps can you take today to reconnect with that sense of wonder, that childlike joy, that innate goodness that resides within you? How might you begin to cultivate your own inner Eden and let its radiance illuminate the world around you?
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep believing in the power of your own divine nature.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.